Let's welcome in 13-year NHL vet with the New York Rangers and Columbus Blue Jackets, Brandon Dubinsky, fresh on the beach in Florida. What's up, Doobie?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
So let's just get right to it. What fired you up enough to send that tweet out yesterday? Because you don't really tweet very often these days.
No, I don't know. I just woke up and I was, I always go on NHL, check the hockey scores, just keep up a little bit, go on ESPN, just kind of go through a little routine. And I saw that he got scratched and I was just confused. And, I think he just got named the captain about a month ago. I was trying to remember if there's ever been a time where I've seen a captain scratch before. Just think it's the wrong thing to do for a player that has been around as long as him, a player that's done as much as he has in the league. And obviously, I've had my own battles with John, so that's why I sent it.
Well, can we rewind for 1 second, though? Because, I grew up a Ranger fan, as you know, Doobie, and from what I can remember, I always thought you and Torts had a really good relationship, at least in New York. It always seemed like you were a Torts guy. I mean, you were always out there matched up against the other team's best lines, like Crosby with the Penguins and all that. So when did it change for you?
I think it was a little bit the same thing that seems to be happening with Couturier right now. Was my last year before I got traded, 11-12. I just signed a new contract, and I was excited. I came into camp in great shape. I was ready to go. Ended up having a tough start to the season, and sort of the same thing that I didn't end up getting scratched, but I went from being one of his guys that he leaned on to a guy that played a lot of minutes and a lot of time on the fourth line that year. It was one of the more frustrating years that I had in my career until obviously the end. And again, it wasn't for lack of preparation or effort or stuff like that. And I know it's a results game, don't get me wrong, but I felt like at the time, I'd proven myself enough to, give me more of an opportunity rather than sort of take the opportunity away. And that's kind of what I feel like he's done here. And there's other players along the way that he's done it with. And it's just frustrating to see. You see some other coaches, some other guys that do it differently, and I think they get more out of their players. And, I think so I'll leave it at that and let you guys keep asking away.
Well, I think that's totally fair. Like, no two players are ever treated the same. And when a coach claims that that's how it works, it's just not. They're lying. And veterans, especially a guy with a letter, deserves a whole different type of conversation than when Bobby Brink is getting scrapped or something like that. So, look, I've seen that firsthand. I didn't have nearly as long or successful as career as you, but whether you're in the American League, the National League, like, you see it, and that's how it works. So I guess what I'm curious about, Brandon, is like, he comes to Philadelphia, and like when he first got hired in Philadelphia, I thought, wow, this is such a desperate move. It felt similar to when Columbus hired Mike Babcock to come there this year. From an outside perspective, obviously, never played for either of these two guys. But then he's kind of like done some things along the way. Like when he came out and he had Kevin Hayes' back, like not that long ago. And I was like, holy shit. And I even texted Hazy and he was like, I cannot believe he did that, or he said that. And then I talked to like Cam Atkinson a little bit and like guys that I kind of grew up playing with. And like, it's interesting. You never get guys who say, yeah, Torts was fine. It's either I loved the guy or I loathed the guy. There just doesn't seem to be any in between with him. And so, like, for you personally, when you end up in Columbus and then he then gets hired in Columbus, because you were there first, correct? If I have my history right.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Was that like oh shit, or were you like, let me try to make this work? Like how did that all go down?
Well, first of all, let's go back for a second. I mean, it wasn't always pain and suffering with Torts. I've always said this. He certainly helped me early in my career. Play hard, play the right way. He has an ability to get more out of guys than some other coaches do. That's why he's had the success he's had. So I'm not saying this isn't a complete Torts bash sesh where I'm like he's the worst coach in the history. He always has been, always will be. he has an ability to get that out. It starts to fall on deaf ears after a while. And I think he overstays his welcome in places. But also, he back to the Couturier thing. It's like this guy won a Selke. I mean, he's been an amazing player for them for a long time, even when I was still in the league, and I've been out of the league for 4 years. Let some of your guys that have earned it play through it and give them opportunity rather than taking it away. So it's not about John Tortorella and being a bad coach, but I can say this. After I got traded to Columbus, I was free. I was playing for Todd Richards. The guy let me go, where sometimes, especially in that last year in New York, like, holy shit, if I didn't get a puck out on the wall, like I was shit my pants. Like, am I going to go right to the fucking end of the bench for the rest of the game? And after earning sort of my spot there, I shouldn't have to have those type of feelings, That's why I said, play free, give them the minutes, give them the opportunity, because as you guys know, it's tough to do a lot with 10 minutes ice time, especially in an NHL game. I mean, going on the ice every, 6 shift, it's just tough to get yourself going. What do you expect out of the guy when, he's playing 10 minutes a game? Now, some people are going to come back and say, well, there's guys that's their role. That's what they do. Well, no shit. I get that too. And they're important pieces of the puzzle. And we love those guys. And they've been huge teammates and still great friends of mine. But I don't want to say they got used to the role, because that's not fair either. They should have an opportunity to move up. But like, they knew kind of what they were getting. Like, this guy is used to playing 20 minutes a night, and all of a sudden he's playing 10, squeezing his stick. Like, how's he going to go out and have a great game? And the whole other thing with it is the timing. It just doesn't make any sense. He's been playing, hasn't had the the greatest stretch here with 20 games or whatever. He was just named the captain a month ago. I mean, we don't play 20 games in a month. So what was that all about? Where did that come from? If he wasn't playing well, why did you name the guy the captain? Was that the confidence booster that you were looking to try and give him? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think it's also important too. Like, he missed 2 years of hockey, and he had a pretty good start to the season, and you could see like they were
Really
riding him incredibly hard the first half of the season, and he's had a little bit of a dip. But just so you know, Brandon, like I completely am with you on this. I couldn't disagree with this whole situation more. Like, I think this is the biggest dickhead move, because I agreed with your tweet. Like, you're embarrassing your captain. Like, that shit doesn't work. That can actually turn a locker room against you, in my opinion. I mean, I know they won against Toronto, but I just think the long-term effect of that is dog shit for your dressing room. And he talks all about culture.
Yeah, and I said it last night. I stick with it. If that was your best 20 and you won, we'll see what happens tonight in Carolina. I mean, is he out of the lineup again?
Well, that's the thing,
what?
right?
I mean,
like, that's the insult. This is our best 20 and our captain's not in it. So that's the message you're sending, right? Like, that's what's fucked up, in my opinion. Like, there's just certain ways you can say it, right? Like, we talked about it yesterday, whether it's sending a message or being this mental reset, where the tone of it is not a mental reset, right? And I think in some cases, if that were the tone, it's like, hey, me and Coots talked about it. We both recognize he needs a night in the stands just to, get that mental reset, gather his thoughts, and come back in and be effective. That wasn't the message that was sent. It was very clear there was a misconnect. But Doobie, back to your tweet also, you mentioned playing free. And wasn't there a story when you were in New York where Torts basically told like Brad Richards when he was struggling to, go out one night and basically like get drunk and like, loosen his mind a bit because he was struggling and kind of play free? Isn't there something like that happened?
I don't remember exactly, but I remember something, to that effect and along those lines. Like I said, Torch was never like a guy that, was, against, having fun and enjoying yourself and things like that. I think he embraced it sometimes. So I don't remember that being an exact time, but it sounds like something he would do. I don't know. Maybe he should have done that with Couturier here too.
Yeah, and Doobie, we do have just a couple questions here in the chat. I don't know if you're willing to answer some questions from our listeners, but one person specifically is just asking about the relationship that you saw happen with like John Tortorella and Marian Gaborik, and I guess that's kind of how Colby alluded to it before, how some players get treated a little bit differently than others. I don't know if you want to touch on it, but if you're willing to.
listen, I mean, there was a stretch there where Gabby scored 40, and then he scored 20, and then he scored 40 again. So let me tell you what happened in that year that he had 20. It wasn't scoring. So then, we would be sitting in the video room, and, Torch would come in and, ask Gabby why he lifted his leg or didn't block a shot or something. I mean, when a guy's scoring 40 for you, you don't ask those type of questions. But then all of a sudden, he's going through a little bit of a rough patch. The puck's not going in for him. And now he's on his ass about blocking shots and doing everything else, that he demands from, as he says, all of his players. That wasn't the case. When Gabby scored every other night, I mean, he was giving him and trust me, I would treat him the same way. I'm not trying to be hypocritical over here, but I would rather Marian Gaborik not break his ankle blocking a shot if he was scoring 40, 50 goals for us in a season. So that was some of the type of stuff that, happened where, he had some struggles. And I think a lot of that, if you asked him, he might not come on your show, but if you asked him privately, he would say, yeah, Torts was an asshole that year. And I had some trouble and I had some struggles with it. And then he came into the next year fresh again and, got off to a good start and scored 40. I don't know the exact numbers, but, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. So are you now?
What about Sean Avery and John Tortorella? Like, I can imagine there could be some explosions when you have two guys like that around the room every day, Brandon.
I mean, it was fun. So if you remember before Sean came back to New York, Torch was like, well, I'll never have him, I think, or I'll never coach him or whatever. Sean came back. It was definitely a little bit different in the locker room at that point. But, until it was kind of over, I thought actually the two of them got along, fairly well in kind of like a sick and twisted way. So there wasn't as much fireworks as you'd expect. I mean, Sean was Sean, and I think Torts let Sean be Sean a little bit, and then, ultimately, found his way to take his ice time away, scratch him, and get him sent to the minors. So
where I then played against him quite a few times when he was in Hartford, and it's funny, I met Avery when I was in college. I came down to New York quite a bit. My cousin Molly Bloom, who's kind of well known in New York at the time for her poker game, I would come down and hang out with Molly and Andy McLaughlin and some of those guys. If you knew those guys, I'm sure you do.
I did,
and I met Sean during those years when I was still a college player, and he was really nice to me, especially around Molly. And then I saw him in Hartford one night, and I go to skate over to him just to say hello to him. And he literally tells me, like, don't ever fucking speak to me, you scum of the earth minor league hockey player. And I was just like, all right, good to see you again, buddy. I guess you don't remember all the time we spent together at Molly's poker game. So, hey, what can you do, right?
Yeah, he was an interesting bird. I mean, it was just a bad day for him. But I had a good experience with Sean, too. Some others would say opposite. I think maybe just because I didn't put up with his shit. He always was running around the room chirping and we had a couple practice fights because I would have put up with his bullshit, and it made everything a lot better for both of us.
Well, I didn't plan on asking you this again, Doobie. I know I asked you this when I previously interviewed you like a year or two ago, and you told me a story about when you were playing on a line with Sean and with Jaromir Jagr. You guys lined up for a face-off in Florida, and I'd love for you to share that story again, if you know what I'm referring to. That face-off play when they both told you to basically do their own thing. I think our listeners would love to hear that one.
Well, it wasn't on the ice yet. We were having a pregame meeting at the hotel before, and Tom Rennie was our coach at the time, and Tom came in and was kind of barking at us a little bit. So Abe was on my left and Jagr was on my right, and he came in and said something, and afterwards he made it a point to just be like, Doobie, and you better listen to me, I'm the fucking coach, And I was like, oh, okay, shit. Okay, yeah, I mean, you're right. And like 2 seconds after Tom walked out of the room, he came and grabbed me. He's like, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that play. We're going to do this. Sean came up, same thing. Hey, we're not doing that. We're going to do this. And they were 3 different things. And I just sit there weighing my options. Coach, Sean Avery, Jaromir Jagr. I'm like, fuck it. I mean, Jaromir Jagr, like his number 68 was like written in Sharpie on the board as opposed to the dry erase for the rest of us. So I went with what 68 was saying, and I'm sure most of you guys would have done the same.
Oh yeah, it's hard to deny Jaromir Jagr and what he tells you, but Also, one thing, Doobie, just about Columbus. Earlier in the year, you tweeted that you wanted to throw your hat in for the GM. Is that a real thing or what? Because I don't know if that was a joke or not for some Columbus fans. They might actually need you.
I mean, it would be a lot of fucking fun. First of all, putting together your own team. Now, I can't say that I'm the best scout, so I mean, I would need some help. Most of these good GMs are good scouts and good talent guys. That being said, it would be a hell of a lot of fun. I said it sort of in jest, but I mean, it would be a lot of fun. Maybe taking the coaching job and showing some of these people that I can coach better than John Tortorella and Mike Babcock would be a good thing.
Well,
Are you still coaching basketball?
I did not coach basketball this year. It was football and then it was my son's travel hockey team at 7. I know that sounds insane. Travel hockey at 7 freaking years old, but
elite, right? Elite, AAA elite, right?
Buddy, it's just there's not enough. We need more rinks in Columbus. We need more players, and it sucks to say we got to go to Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh, places like that to get really good competition for these kids. So I'm the last parent that would want to be. I mean, we have some fun, but like traveling and going to these places with the 7-year-olds, like when I say it out loud, just sounds crazy. So, but yeah, these kids, need it. They're getting better. It's been a lot of fun working with them and coaching them and teaching them.
It's funny. You sound kind of like Dennis Seidenberg. I don't know if you ever cross paths with him, but Sides has I think his son is like maybe 11 now. And like Dennis is on the bench and he's like traveling and he's always carrying his son's bag through the rinks and everything like that. He'll send me a picture. He'll be like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on here?
It's actually incredible. You've seen all these guys now, like, I was talking with Nathan Gerby. He's got kids the same age. Jeff Petrie and David Perron were at a tournament over All-Star break in Detroit rather than like on the beach, because their kids are playing in these tournaments now. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you guys doing here? Like, hit the beach. Your wife, like, sit this one out for them, enjoy a little break during the season. But they, so you see a lot of guys. But here's the thing. It's a lot of fun. I always said I'm not coaching my kids play hockey. I'm not. But like a couple of years ago, I'm sitting in the stands watching the Blue Jackets Hockey Club. And this has nothing to do with the Blue Jackets, by the way. It's just like, it's all like dad volunteers and all this like different station shit. And I'm sitting up there and these kids are like playing tic-tac-toe and just fucking around and they're not learning a goddamn thing. And I'm sitting there like, this is the biggest waste of time to sit and watch and be a part of. So I went out there to try and help them, again, teach the fundamentals, the skating, the stick handling, the passing, the shooting, all the things. They weren't doing that. And I mean, that's how I found myself behind a youth hockey bench, but wasn't my intention. It's just, as an ex-player, as a parent, it's frustrating when you watch, somebody out there and your son out there, daughter out there, and they're being lazy and they're not being taught properly. So yeah, that's what got me back there.
Well, Columbus is obviously an up and coming. I don't think people realize, like, I got to play against the Blue Jackets. I've seen what that building is like when it's alive. It's a really, really hidden gem of a hockey town. People are super passionate there. And so I kind of want to stay with the Columbus stuff. I played with Clarkie a little bit. So I hope when all this stuff shakes out in Columbus, Clarkie's still, involved as they hire a new management team and whatnot. But what did you think of when they hired Mike Babcock? Like, what was your reaction to that? And did you ever cross paths with him and Team Canada events or anything like that?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't really think too much about it. To be quite honest, I didn't know about a lot of the history stuff. I think some of that happened after I was done. And like I said, like I check ESPN and NHL. I don't pay too close of attention to the game, or as much as I have time to, as much as I would like to. But I will say one thing that I thought was, and this is the same thing that happens all the time. Like, where the fuck are these new coaches at? Because right now we just keep recycling the same garbage from one place to another, and it's like exhausting. Like, I know we started this conversation because we want to talk about John Tortorella. I mean, the guy, like, he wouldn't leave the bench the other day. He's acting like a baby. Got kicked out of the game, suspended for 2 games, and fined $50,000 because he was acting like a child. Like, what an example, right? Number one.
Yeah.
But
hurts your team.
And I mean, if he's not on the bench and he's your head coach, yeah, that hurts. Number one. But I don't know. I guess going back to my point is these guys just shuffling through. It's the same guys all the time. We'll see what happens with Pascal Vincent there. I'm obviously really good buddies with Jared Bull still. He's one of the assistant coaches there on Pascal's staff. He's been an assistant coach or a coach, elsewhere, never given a head coach up for a long time. So I think the players like him over there. Obviously, the team's had a shitty year, but I mean, what do you expect when you have a coach that's named like a week before training camp? Not to give them any more excuses, but it certainly makes it a little bit different if you have a different coaching philosophy. So hopefully they give him a little bit more time. It's a young team. It's, they got some good players. It's, as you said, the building's full. They do a great job with fan experience there. I mean, I go to 12 games, 13 games a year, have a blast, bring my kids, bring business partners, friends, have beers, whatever, enjoy. And like I said, I'd like to see some of this old guard going back to the Babcock full circle. Like, I'd like to see some of these old guys, get kicked out of the rotation and bring some new blood in for the players.
Well, to that point, and I know we don't want to keep you too long, Doobie. Obviously, you're busy on the beach in Florida right now. We can see it looks pretty nice over there. I'm sure you want to go tarpless here and get some color. But is there any name that you'd want to throw in the mix, like a guy maybe that is a little bit younger that hasn't gotten his shot as a head coach yet that you'd want to see get a chance?
Just said Jared Bull would be one of them.
Well, another one. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I just like to see these guys. Like, so I mean, Bowler probably is not ready for being to be a head coach. But listen, he's been in the development stuff. He's an assistant coach. This guy's been putting his time in, working his ass off, and it's guys like that. It's guys that played. Number one. I like a guy that played because they understand what it's like to be at the highest level. And other people like, obviously you've gotten the Tortorellas or the Hitchcocks and some of these guys that never played a game in their life that, have had success. But, I like to see some of these guys that, that played so they understand sometimes what a player's going through. I like players that, played were great team guys, and he was always one of the best teammates. Ask any one of his teammates what type of teammate he was, they'll always say he's the best. And a guy that played hard and played the right way. So he's a guy that has all the that side of the game. And then obviously he's been in the trenches with these guys doing the video and learning from some whether it was Torts or whether it was Pascal now, Brad Larson even what it takes to be a coach in the NHL. So I'd like to see him continue to rise up and get those opportunities. And, I guess if I look out there, even though he knocked me out, one of the coaches I'd like to play for is Luke Richardson. He seems like a guy that is like a guy's guy, coaches the right way, gets a lot, and obviously the Blackhawks suck and let's just face it, they do. But he's just positive and he's upbeat. He's going to, that team's not going to suck for long, I don't think.
No.
Especially with him behind the bench. I really like the way his demeanor and how he coaches the game. So that would be kind of a newer coach that I'd like to see, that type of person, coming in. And I was just there with him
in Chicago, Brandon, for 2 years, doing TV and actually being between the benches. So I got a really good view to it. And man, the way he treats people, it's incredible. Again, he was so good to the TV, but, kind of gave us the opportunity because we were team employees in Chicago. Man, I couldn't stamp what you're saying anymore. What an unbelievable guy. I would have loved to have played for him. His whole staff is like that. Derek King, who I'm sure you remember as a player, and then Kevin Dean, who's the D coach, who I actually had in the Bruins organization. They couldn't have a staff that cares more about you individually and as a person. Just to add a little color to that, Luke is
that's
an
awesome.
unreal guy.
And that's great to hear because honestly, I don't even know him. I mean, outside of him just knocking me out in my 7th NHL game, legitimately, I don't know him at all except for just played against him, and then seeing them, the way he coaches, I like, it seems like a guy that I'd love to play for, and we need more of in the league.
So before we let you go, is there any final thoughts you want to give on this whole Torts Couturier situation here? I know you tweeted that maybe he won't be in the lineup tonight. Are you going to have your eyes on this situation for the rest of the season? Also, I just want to say too, Rupper's in our chat right now, and he loved that you called Torch John. He laughed at that. That was pretty funny.
Old Jonny. John. Yeah. Yeah, I don't need to be called Torts anymore. John. Yeah, listen, I know the way John works. Couturier is going to play tonight. I hope he goes out there and I hope everyone calls me an asshole because Couturier goes out there and scores 2. And even though, he plays for the Flyers, I've hated the Flyers forever. I hope he goes out there and has a good game, and then everyone can tell me I'm an idiot and that John's the smartest guy in the world. That's fine with me. That means the player got what he needed and played well. But I'll go back. I don't care. Like, it was such bullshit. Like, you don't scratch your captain a month after naming him. The guy, I can promise you, the guy didn't win a Selke trophy and have the success he's had because he goes out there and floats in practice or goes out and parties like a monster when he shouldn't be. He takes care of himself and he's a team first guy. So I thought the scratch was bullshit because, like I said, I don't think it's a selfish player, especially your captain. So I stand by the fact that I think that it was a chicken shit move and stupid. But like I said, hopefully everyone can bitch at me because he goes out there and has a good game tonight, and everyone will tell me how smart Torts is. But that's just because I want that for the player, not because I want Torts to get any satisfaction or credit for doing anything right now. So I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, we really appreciate your time. Go play some can jam or do whatever you got to do on the beach in Florida. Enjoy the sun, and we'll definitely keep in touch as the year goes on. But best of luck with everything, and hopefully we see you behind a Blue Jacket bench maybe sometime soon here.
Oh, don't hold your breath. But I appreciate you guys, man. Kick some ass. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.